So if you're somebody who's that busy, you're working long hours, you're doing 40 hours a week at your job, and then you're doing, extra hours working on either schooling or on a side hustle or whatnot, your time for associating with a random female that you really don't know is very limited. You might give her, an hour or two to meet up and have a drink or whatnot. So I wholeheartedly agree. The men that she's referring to are individuals who maybe don't have a lot going on. Um, so they have a lot of time to make time for her. But the men that she's interested in don't have time for her. They have little windows in their schedule where they might make an opportunity for her if they're really interested. And that's the problem, is that from a lot of females' perspectives, they don't understand that the men that they're interested in typically are busy and don't have a lot of time. And if your time is very limited, you really don't want to spend your time with someone who is like, their personality is unattractive. Yes, they might look good, but their personality might be unattractive.
Make a plan. I want to hang out with you at this time. It doesn't have to even be a date. I want to see you at this time. Are you free at this time? Or when are you free? I will accommodate my schedule to see you. When are you free?
All right, so that's very telling right there. Exactly what she said. From a female's perspective, she will make room for you. Let her know when you're free, and then she'll arrange her schedule that way. And that's very true. If you're a well-to-do, busy man and your time is limited, and a female perceives you as having value, she will make adjustments in her schedule to see you. If the woman that you're interested in isn't doing that, I mean, if the woman, she is more likely perhaps not all that interested in you.
I want to see you. I know it's not rocket science, but men of 2020, it seems like it's pretty difficult for you to figure out. And I'm not a feminist, so please don't take this as a feminist rant. I love men. I think men are great. I think men have failed themselves and they failed us. And I'm just trying to help you out because I think there are.
Well, I just want to say the 2020 statistics, like single motherhood in white America is like 40%. I think it's like 55% in Hispanics. And I think within Black America, it's like 70, close to 80%. So if you really have a problem with all these men, it's typically because most of these men are being raised by women.
A lot of really great guys out there who need a little help. And I don't think that there are a lot of women that are stepping up and saying these things and not FaceTime me, I swear to God. Quite frankly, I don't think that there are a lot of women that aren't raging feminists that don't look like Lena Dunham. They're saying these things to you. So I'm going to go ahead and say them because they need to be said. I am really so sick of my friends having to deal with trash men. I am tired of dealing with trash men, so I'm going to help you out.
And I would say the same thing. If you're a man and you're typically dealing with what, in her term, trash women, then maybe you need to step up your game, right? I mean, if that's all that you're attracting, you can't blame it on the people that you're attracting. If all you're attracting is trash men, well, then maybe like I said, maybe it's you.
Make plans. So let's go through these lists again because I know y'all love a list. Number 1, are you single? Number 2, make a plan. Nobody wants a pen pal. We want to actually see you. If not, don't text us because it's a waste of our time and
I
we don't
agree.
want to see it on our phones. Got it? All right. Next thing. Value. Okay? Value. Take that in. Just repeat it to yourself until it makes sense. Okay.
So again, this goes back to her other point of she feels that she is value in her eyes. If you've been following anything that's going on within the financial market, you'd see the price of gold is going up, right? And so value, like they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so is value. If I have a product, right? I mean, if I have a product that I want to sell and I say I'm the seller, right? I believe this product is worth $1,000, but then nobody wants to buy it. Well, then the market says that it's not worth $1,000. The market will bear what the market will bear. And it's the same thing from a female perspective. The man is the one who decides whether he finds you of value. You will have personal value, but that doesn't mean that I value you as someone I want in my life. And this is, again, females in 2020 in the West.
If you want to date a girl that has nothing going on, then that's fine. But please do not mix in people like me and my friends who have something going on with your other girls that have nothing going on. And by nothing going on, I mean this. There is no job that is unimportant. There is no job that's not valuable or that's not worthy. It is. But if you want to mix in people like me and people like my friends who are go-getters, who work really hard, who make their own money, who are talented, skilled, ambitious, please don't.
Right? Doesn't that sound like all the qualities that a man should have? Right? Again, same perspective. She's a woman who is viewing men from the mindset of a man, right? She's taking what she believes is a value of what she looks for in a man, and then she's now saying, well, then you should be looking for the exact same thing as a man. And men don't value the same things.
Don't mix us in with the Tatianas. We don't want to be there. If that's what you want, find them. Please, for the love of God, do not mix us in with them because we don't want to be there. And quite frankly, we take it as an insult if we find out that you are also talking to 5 Tatianas who have nothing going on. People like me and my friends are going to be insulted by that. And there's almost really no coming back from it. So
I doubt she was that insulted when she was probably in her early 20s and she was hopping around to different men. I mean, if you know the different people that she's been involved with are typically like well-to-do, tall, athletic, men with money, status, etc. And men like that have scores of women that are just like throwing themselves at them.
if you want that kind of a girl, the kind of girl who's just kind of happy going through the motions of life, not really super ambitious, hasn't really found herself yet, doesn't really have a whole lot going on other than she's pretty, please just go after them. And please do not mix us in. We don't want to be there. I promise you. So value. There's a lot of women out there that I know that are my good friends who have amazing jobs, who work really hard, but who can't seem to find a decent guy, even if they go up in age 5 to 10 to 15 years, because those guys all want to be with 21-year-olds who have nothing going on.
And that's, like I said, there you have it right there, right? The well-to-do man has his endless stream of women. And so when you've hit the wall, right? When you're past your prime, well, then a well-to-do man has the next line of crop that have bloomed, the next line of women who are just 18, 19, 20 that are just coming up. And so, and this is what many of these women don't like. Many of these women don't like the fact that they have to compete for the men that they're interested in. And this is what men have to do all day. I mean, if you want to be out there and you want to be meeting women, either you got to be really, really, really in good shape, right? Because you can meet women if you're a good looking guy and you're in good shape, or you got to have money, or a mixture of the two, or good personality. You have to have game. And a lot of these women don't like that. They just want to show up and perceive that they're of value, and that the men should just automatically, value them. It's just so stupid. But
it's very unfortunate.
That's females in 2020 in the West. That's why I tell a lot of you people in many of my other videos of why I don't mess with females in the West.
I don't think it's going to be fulfilling, but I would say to the men out there, try to maybe find a woman that you can talk to, communicate with, might actually have her shit together, might actually be ambitious and have something going on, or want to have something going on.
And I've dated educated college grad women with lawyers, doctors, nurses. The talking points are the same. The talking points are literally the same. Whether it's a young woman or an older woman, the conversation's the same. The talking points don't change. They don't improve. They don't become more intellectual. It's all the same shit. And it's why one of the reasons why men typically don't like talking with women. Women always complain that you don't talk to me.
I don't care what she does.
Because they all talk about the same shit.
She doesn't have to be on TV. She doesn't have to be a PhD. She doesn't have to be a television producer. She doesn't have to own her own company. But be ambitious and have something going on.
And I would say that of every man, be ambitious and have something going on in your life. That what she is referring to from a female's perspective. Like, a lot of men typically don't sit there and are asking like, oh, where'd you go to school and what do you do? And, that's what women do, right? That's what a woman does when she's trying to size you up. When I go out and I used to go out to the clubs here, that would be the first thing. They'd be like, "Oh, where do you live?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I live here in Manhattan." They're like, "Oh, really? Where in the city do you live?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm up here on, on in this area." And they're like, "Oh, do you live by yourself?" And or do they're like, "Oh, you live with a roommate, right?" And I'm like, "No, I live by myself." And they're like, "Really? What do you do?" Right? Because they're just sizing you up, right? They're just sizing you up. They're trying to figure out how much money you have. What are you worth?
Those women out there are going to be a lot more fulfilling to you. You're actually going to enjoy your time. And if you actually might want a sustainable and healthy and stable relationship, that's probably the kind of girl you're going to need to find. Not the Tatianas who just want to look cute and post Instagram stories.
But the guys who are going after these women aren't looking for relationships. They're just looking to pump and dump.
Now, I love a good Instagram story. Y'all know I do. I love a good boomerang. I love a good whatever. But if that's all you do, men, if that's all she does, probably Houston, we have a problem. I'm just going to let you in on a little tip.
And I would say she's wholeheartedly right. If this woman doesn't really have anything other than being pretty, I mean, like I said, if you're just gonna go out there, most of these guys are just looking to pump and dump, and you shouldn't be trying to you shouldn't be trying to wife up a thought.
The next thing on my list is this: consistency. It really does not help me or my friends or any woman in general if you are really cool and you're really interested when you first start talking to them, and then give it 3, 4, 5 days, and all of a sudden you're not consistent anymore. You don't make plans. You don't really care. You kind of fade in and out. You're talking to.
And that's just, again, that's just super telling about her and her friends, that the men, after a little bit of time, just really don't find them interested. Maybe when they first approached you in your tight little dress, you were found attractive when they first met you, right? Maybe you got a little butt, maybe you got little boobs. They find you attractive. You got a pretty face, right? But then they get to know you, and they're like, "Shit ain't worth it."
5 other Tatianas. Consistency is important. Now, if you want to be inconsistent and you want to ghost and you want to fall off the radar, that's fine, but I'm going to give you a pro tip. People like me and people like my friends, we aren't going to really give a shit after that. We don't really care.
Hit the
The
wall.
F's have been given and we're kind of done. I'll tell you this from personal experience. Once I'm turned off, I am turned off and I don't care anymore. Because at one point, I probably did care. At one point, my friends, they probably did care. They probably did like you because you expressed interest and maybe you were cool and maybe you were kind of fun to hang out with. But if you're not consistent and you fall off the radar, I give you maybe 1 to 2 chances to fix that, because I'm a very direct communicator. Women, this is important. I will communicate to you. If your communication isn't great, I will let you know that. I will let you know that more effort is needed. But if you don't heed that warning, and I have to warn you,
More effort is needed on your part to communicate. This is always women's gripe about men, is that they don't communicate in the way that they want them to communicate.
twice, I'm done at that point because I don't really care anymore. Now I'm done. Now I don't care. And I know my friends who are watching this are thinking and saying the same thing because we have these conversations on an almost daily basis.
Jesus.
Once you turn us off, we don't care anymore. So let that be a warning to you. You're probably.
And this is a good thing for women. If all your friends are all having the same discussions, all it does is it reinforces kind of the negative behavior, or I should say like the negative mental standpoint. Because instead of saying, well, instead of having those conversations with your partner, having these conversations with your female friends, and it's just kind of reinforcing and spurring it on and adding gasoline to the fire, it doesn't do anything for the relationship.
Probably not going to circle back. They always come back. They
For a booty call.
always come back. But when you're ready to come back, I probably don't care anymore. So if you want to switch up, stay there. Pro tip. My last thing on my list is also very important. Don't be
Also very
excuse
important.
my language. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a bitch. If you have then failed and you lost a woman of value like myself or my friends, and then we don't really care anymore, don't be a bitch. Don't be butthurt. You did it to yourself. Okay? And it's no longer my problem. Now it's become a personal problem of yours. So don't be a bitch. And by the way, if I'm no longer interested because your effort is shitty, that's not me being a bitch. That's not me being difficult. That's me having a standard in which I expect from people. I do have high standards and high expectations. My friends have high standards and high.
And so do the men that these women get involved with. The men also have high standards. If you're a well-to-do man, if you've got your own business and you're, in your 30s, 40s, you're good looking, or you take care of yourself, you're in shape, you know how to dress, these exact same men also have high standards. And the problem is that a lot of these women in the West just don't realize that they don't meet those standards, especially because, like I said, there's always a younger version of you that's coming up and that will, as she say, thought it up to get your attention. And that's what women just don't understand. And they hate the fact, again, women hate the fact that they have to compete for these different men, but yet these are the men that they want. They want the men that the women compete over, and that's just a reality.
Expectations. Do you want to know why? We've worked for those. Okay? We work hard. We're successful. We take care of ourselves. We try to look cute. We have a desire to be something more each day. Okay? That's why we have the ability to be somewhat what you call difficult. It's not.
And again, like everything that she's referring to from a female's perspective, she should be thinking about from the male's perspective. That all these different men that are out here that are just like, you kind of ain't worth it, and after a couple of dates, they're just like, as what she said, 3, 4, 5 days go by and they're not interested. These men also have standards. These men are not being difficult. They just have standards, and you're just not meeting those standards.
Not difficult. We just have a baseline standard. And if you can't meet that standard, that's okay. A lot of men cannot. But if you are one of those men,
and
out
a lot
there,
of women can't
I
either.
have them all over my DMs. Sometimes I check them, and you guys are like, what would it take to be with someone like you? What would it take to be with your friends?
And think about it. What well-to-do man is going to be in her DMs asking that question? Like, come on.
What are girls like you? What are they looking for?
The ones that are in her DMs that are asking those questions are the dudes that she wouldn't even be interested in.
I laid them out for you very simply there. In order to have a shot with a girl like me or girls like my friends, girls that are worth a damn, you don't really have to be Brad Pitt. You don't have to be famous. You don't even really have to make a lot of money or have a really fantastic job. You just have to be determined. You have to be in some way successful in that you want to attain some certain kind of success for yourself. You're driven. You have goals. You can handle a woman with standards. That's not going to turn you off. And you're going to put in the effort to be with somebody like myself or my friends.
And I would say that that's wholeheartedly true. What she referred to is very much true. But from the guy's perspective, you really don't have to be a wealthy man. You really don't have to be all that good looking. A lot of what she's referring to is about the mindset that you have, and of course that you're goal oriented. You'll always be able to come across young, beautiful women if you're a person who has goals and you're working towards those goals, and the woman finds you attractive. She'll just look at it as realistically that she's making an investment, of course, for her future because she wants to attach herself. I mean, shit, there's one of these women right at my job who's dating she's dating a doctor, or he's in medical school, right? And I've had multiple conversations with her, and I'd be like, well, what if it didn't work out? Or whatnot. She's like, I would just throw myself at one of these other doctors. That's the reality. That is the reality. Women are just either they're going to make an investment. And if you look at the guy, again, I've met the guy, not all that good, scrawny little pencil neck, not, probably just a very smart guy. In terms of the looks, not necessarily all that good looking that he's going to be pulling women, just off his presence alone. But from a female's perspective, she's like, shoot, I don't want to work in the future. And I've had conversations with this person before where they don't want to work and they're just hitching their post to a man who will hopefully have a good future. And that's just a reality of what it was back in the days before all these women were out here working. And of course, now that they're out here working because companies are forced to diversify, right? Diversity is our strength, as they say. So now you have all these companies that are being forced by the state to have more women, like for example, in STEM. And still to this day, I did another video talking about that. where they still talk about not a lot of women are in, medicine, even though there are more, but they're in typically the lower practices. Most of the specialties are typically dominated by men, etc. Right? And this is just a reality of what this lady and what every single one of her friends and what the vast majority of females in the West just don't understand. She goes on a little bit more about the rant. Some of the points that she talks about, I agree with. I'll leave a link to it. This video is getting a lot longer than I had anticipated anyway. But this is, again, a good example of why, if you're looking for what some people might deem an attractive woman, this is what you have to deal with. And it's just why in the West, I just don't even bother.